And there's your right hand side as an African elephant. And you can tell it's an African elephant because of those very large noticeable ears. That's the most common way people identify being an African elephant, but there is two other ways. If you were to stare at the ears long enough, you eventually would find the shape or outline of the African homeland. But a third way, which is the easiest, you'd be in Africa.
You'd be in Africa.
And since the African elephant was all found all by itself, more than likely it is a male. Because during the daytime, males actually separate from the main group and just have their own personal space. But during the nighttime, they will return to the main group to watch over everyone throughout the nighttime. Now, unfortunately, we are going to be hanging out with the trees here because further ahead somewhere, some animals were in the road. Thankfully, it was only a few moments. There have been days when the animals stay in the road for 15-ish minutes. One day, one animal was still in the road for nearly 2.5 hours. But there's a better view of the African elephant. So African elephants, with those large ears, you see it's flapping it. As they flap the ears like that, it will help to adjust their own body temperatures by around a good 15 degrees, give or take. But that's just one method they use, as they do have a few other ones. Sometimes they just hide in the big shady areas. But if there's no shade around, they then will use sand, dirt, and mud as a way to kind of coat their body in a layer of protection to kind of cool down the temperature. But then also as another reason, acts as a personal sunscreen protection for them. Because their skin is very sensitive to sunlight, and their skin can crack quite easily. So they use that all the time to kind of just keep themselves from getting nasty sunburns and such like that. Unfortunately, what happened is we started moving again, and the animal came looped back around, jumped in front of the other truck in line. So we are going to be hanging out here for just a moment longer. But this does happen on quite a bit. Throughout the day, it could happen anywhere between an average of 10, sometimes 25 times a day. How long the stops may be? Sometimes they're a few seconds, like I mentioned. 15 minutes is the most average. And then on the very rare days for the 2.5 hours, that's when it was a white rhinoceros just fell asleep on the road for those 2.5 hours. So that's why it took so long.
2.5 hour nap.
Now we're up around this corner. As you can see in front of us, there's this very old bridge. Now this bridge has been around since 1971. It has gone through quite a bit throughout the years. They've been using things like cables and ropes to hold it all together. But this year, they actually wanted to test out duct tape and see how well it holds up the entire bridge. But the African instead ignored the refugee bridge. That was one day.
It's like when you get a little.
Alright, now we are going to be passing through a lot of red clay, as what a lot of the soft your right hand side is. This red clay houses a lot of vitamins and nutrients that's all compacted inside of it. But since, like it is part of most clays, it is very hard. And a lot of animals love to eat from it, but not all of them have the strength to actually chip into it. Some animals are a lot stronger than others, so what happens is the other animals that can't really chip into it with their own strength and their own power, they'll usually wait for a larger animal to come across and chip part of it away. And then in chipping that part away, they leave crumbs around. So they'll eat those crumbs up and get their nutrients for the day. For example, if you look up here to your right hand side, you'll see a lot of tusk markings. And you see how they're all scraping up and into the clay right there? That's what they do, is scrape up and chip it away. And then little bits will fall down the ground right there for the other animals. Now, African elephants are eating the red clay only maybe once a day, sometimes twice, but not too often. Because the rest of the day, they're eating quite a lot of other things. They eat quite a bit of grasses, bushes, trees. They also eat a lot of fruits, vegetables, and peanuts. Because the amount of food one of them eats in just one day's time, it equals closer to around 300 pounds worth. I'm trying to look ahead, and I think I see something around the bend there. We'll have to see.
It's not a tree. Branches on the roof. There's a whole bunch of them.
I've seen a few more of those baobab trees, though. Now, another nickname these trees are known by, which you might have heard about, is the tree of life. The way they got this nickname, it kind of relates back to the water they store inside of them. And if you see on this one, there's a lot of puncture holes. Well, that's because during summer seasons, there's not a lot of rain. It only rains once, maybe twice in Africa throughout the year. And so when there's not enough water, they'll seek out these trees because they know they can get water from it in 4 different ways. Either by puncturing it, letting some water trickle out, tearing off some of the bark and eating trace amounts of that, tearing up some of the roots and getting water from that way, or the ground itself is very moist. There's constantly things growing around these trees because the ground is so moist from the water from the tree. And so they'll oftentimes just take their hose or feet and make themselves a little watering hole they'll drink from there. So in turn, since it helps keep like the circulatory balance, therefore nicknamed tree of life.
Oh my god, look how blue that is.
Now over to the left hand side, we're going to see the mighty ducks.
Oh my god.
Ducks.
That's the music greater flamingos. Now, of the flamingo family, the gray flamingos are the tallest, 5 feet, and they only weigh 9 pounds. But if you notice, there's a few of them in there that are slightly whiter than they would be pink. They are considered to be the lightest pink feather. And the reason some are more whiter and some are more pink is just how much of what they eat that gives them the pink feathers they eat, which is brine shrimp. In fact, if gray flamingos were to stop eating brine shrimp entirely, they would lose their pink feathers altogether. So you gotta constantly eat it to keep their pink feathers there. And a group of them all gathered together in one place is known as a flamboyance.
Flamboyance.
But now we're venturing into the East Savannah region I mentioned long ago. And like up here to the left hand side in the back corner here, you might see a few more of those African elephants all gathered together. When they're stationary in one location, that is known as a memory of elephants. They never stand in the exact same position twice. Now, one thing about this area is that the tree line is a lot more thicker and a lot more denser than it's been in all the previous areas. And animals use it to their advantage because hiding in these areas, they allow themselves to be concealed and hide from predators. Predators will not be able to get sneaky and be closer to them because they're always going to hear them coming from one direction or the other because there's just a lot of trees and twigs and leaves for them to crunch on and go through. But then consequently for us, while they're hiding in this area, it makes it a little more challenging to find around here. It's kind of like the old game, where's Waldo? Only for us it's where's the animal today? Because they're never in the same position twice, which is rare but not. Alright, you see something. Look straight ahead, you'll see 2 cheetahs lying on the far back.
Oh yeah, they're there.
Now the cheetahs
Yeah, they're over
are
there.
able to go from speed to
Yeah, they're laying down up there.
And while they can maintain their speed for a few hundred yards, they do know how to maximize their speeds as they have really good instincts, non-targeted claws. They're actually considered to be the most accomplished day hunters when it comes to members of the cat family. And they primarily only hunt during the daytime, simply due to the fact that they have absolutely no nighttime vision whatsoever. And the most they'll ever weigh is 80 pounds. here to your left-hand side is the Cody Rocks. And I imagine it's just having a rockin' time over here. Wow, that was rock silent. Oh, I got you. I saw the smiles. Let's see, is there anything there? Yes, so up here to your right hand side, there's a little buntabak laying on the ground. Now, buntabugs have this little chestnut brown coat about them and this very unique pigmentation. I know half you can't see it right now, it's because an animal has proceeded to come back on the road again, so we're paused again. But for the few that I can see this buntabug, chestnut brown coat, and underneath their chestnut brown coat, they have this red kind of soot that lays underneath their coat. And what's unique about them is that if they're in direct sunlight, all of a sudden the chestnut brown becomes a shiny part of the coat. It's very unique and very pretty to see when you do see it. You look straight ahead to your forward. Left just a little bit, you'll see the ostrich over there. Now the ostrich, they are the biggest flightless birds of the wild. Though they are flightless, and the reason they're flightless, they are 5 feet tall, about 275 pounds. The reason they can't fly is because their wingspan is simply too short. They only have 2-foot wingspan. For them to actually take full flight, they would, wingspan would need to be at least 9 feet long. So to make up the difference of them not being able to fly, they run to a speed of 40 miles per hour. So to your right, you'll get a better view of that buntabug will just a little bit ago. And buntabugs only live around 16 years, but that buntabug actually just turned 17 years old not so long. It's actually the oldest living buntabug in the entire world. And off here to your right hand side, also some white rhinoceros past those trees up there. Oh, some sleeping on one, getting some lunch over there. Now, when a white rhinoceros first starts life, they're between 88 and 140 pounds. It takes them roughly 7 years to become a full-grown buck, at which point they weigh between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds. Now, there is a creature over here to your left-hand side that you could say is just laying about. Very, very sleepy lions, which is very typical of these lions. During the day, they sleep 16 hours a day. They're much more active during the nighttime, but they are 500 pounds. Someone 5 miles away could hear them. Not only that, if you're able to say the word lion, it's a word you'll know really well, as it's a word of symbol.
I am still recording.
Especially the lions can jump about 15 feet straight up in the air. Now to your left,
Something laying over there.
Laying down right down the ground, you see the just snoozing in the sun. Like I said, they take naps in the afternoon. But warthogs are the biggest birding creatures, and despite a very short stubby leg they have, their max running speed is 45 miles per hour. And a group of them is known as a sounder. Here to your right, a much closer view of these white rhinoceros. This group of them is known as a creepush. For a particular reason, they don't have the greatest of eyesight. Everything they see in front of them looks like a color of a blob. So for them to know what blobs they can or cannot go through, typically at full speed, which for them is 20 or 30 miles per hour, they crash right into it. Even to each other, they look like a blob, so to recognize one another, they tap each other on the horn and then rub their cheek to this way of looking. Now laying on the ground here to your right-hand side, you'll see some ostrich eggs.
Ostrich eggs.
And those eggs are quite tough. They withstand 300
I
pounds
hear
of
it.
pressure, not crack, and only weigh 3 pounds. The amount of yolk you find inside of one egg, it's roughly enough to fill about 2 dozen normal chicken eggs. For the best part, I'm not going to egg you on with a joke.
I'm enjoying the
Here we are now at the Nagani Glen, also sometimes known as the Women's Coast. When they're not taking care of the animals in the reserve, they're actually here taking their breaks. I don't see them here at the moment, but right on top of the hill and actually kind of scattered around the area, there's a lot of night journeying.
Madison, look. It's a Land Rover.
Oh my god.
It's a Land Rover.
Throughout the day, they usually sleep anywhere they deem comfortable for themselves, eating a lot of weeds, underbrush, moss, grass, things like that. Though sometimes throughout the day, they do get really bored, and then all of a sudden they'll charge and proceed to thump each other on the head. I use the word thump because their top speed is 0.1 per hour. And now we're heading all the way back to the main. And I do hope you've enjoyed seeing the animals out here today, because not only do I hope you take it to your hearts what you've seen, but to be much more mindful as we do try to see where these animals go, because the things are parts to help them out. Make good recycle or use reusable item, which will help to reduce the amount of waste in the world and reduce the amount of chance of the pre-farming animals, giving Earth this chance of recovery so animals have a place where they can expand and grow and thrive in the numbers in the world and not waste. That's just one small way, as there is a multitude of ways we can help the animals. And anyway, you've helped out in the past, to this very day you're still helping.
It does.
In the future, help out these animals, whatever it is, big or small, it helps them, and it's greatly appreciated. As you can hear, someone is playing, which means we're back in the main village. And around here we don't say goodbye. It's too sad and too much of a final farewell. So instead we leave you in the much older Swahili phrase, which is Nikoshima Ilhami. When roughly translated, does mean to say to go well and to go wild. And if I have any wilderness explorers on board, well, you've been riding aboard the Simba #1. It's page 1415 booklets. Now where you'll pick up your badge completion safaris is, depending which dock I go to, once you disembark, if you go past a hut and you go past a jeep, you'll see the Wilderness Explorer just in that area right past the jeep. Not too far, just a little bit. But if you want to earn more badges and also